do the nonadiabatic coupling calculations, we need some input fields. So first we need the triple R file, we need the energy part, Forde file, and this special MATLAB code. So this is a Forde. It's also is stressed in matrix format. And we use this command line to generate the Forde. And this is how it looks like.
So it's values of oscillator strengths for each pair of orbital.
Right. And this is how we get the band file. So we need a special income, and also we need, after we run that, we need to run this band. So yes, to use this command, we need to modify two parameters. We need to change the orbital number here. So after that, we run this per command, and we can get the band file.
So is it the universal command, or there are some modifications of this band integrator? Will it work for VASP-5, or there are some?
I guess for this is just for VASP-4, but in the bin there is another code. I guess it's band integrate 5.
Okay.
And here we need to make sure all these input files are in the same folder, so we can run the MATLAB code. So, any questions so far?
Especially feel free to stop.
Right.
David and Kevin are main audience of these talks. Do not hesitate to stop if you want more details and clarification.
Do you want to have a question? Okay, so next we take a look at the MATLAB code. So basically in this code we want to get 3 main outcomes. The first one is evolution of orbital occupation as a function of time. The second is charge distribution as a function of energy. The third is charge distribution as a function of space. And in our calculations, we separate electrons and holes. So there is an approximation, there is no interaction between electron and holes. So this is the start of our code. So IH stands for initial condition for hole, IE is the initial condition for electron. So IE equal 10 means this is 9 orbitals above Yulun. This is 9 orbitals below Forde. So since there is no interaction between electron and hole, I will only focus on electrons. I guess this is not important. This is just because energy path has 3 columns, and we transfer different columns to different values. So here for this line, we just load the triple R file and we name it for ME. And here we need to modify some input. We need to specify the orbital and the start of the orbital and the end of the orbital. So this is the visualization of RR. And we can see there are 2 parts. The blue stands for hole, and the yellow stands for electrons. So since there is no interaction, we can just separate them. So this is what does this command do. So basically, we just choose certain part of the RR file. And for this protocol for noise, I guess for RR, we have transition rates for forward transitions and backward transitions, and they have the same value. For example, the transition rate from LUMO plus 1 to LUMO is equal to the transition rate from LUMO to LUMO plus 1. So since they are equal, we can just cancel out one set of data. We only focus on transitions which lead to minimization of total energy. In other words, we only keep downward transitions from LUMO, for example, from LUMO plus 1 to LUMO.
Let's ask Jabot, Levi, and Nathan how they would call this procedure and how they treat it in their approach, so that we have more discussion and more view.
So is this?
There is a name in statistical theory. Principle of. First, there are two words more. First starts with letter D. Second starts with letter B.
Is it freedom?
No. Second word starts with letter B. If you took statistical mechanics, you should recognize it. Huh?
But in our approach, we just make it 0.
I apologize for this little break, but it is justified.
What is the question?
Yeah, what is the principal state again?
Let's play this game with you, maybe.
Coupling I to
Otherwise, no one of us is. Huh? What?
No, I'm telling him what's the
Alright, say that one more.
so it's a two-step simple one.
Yeah.
So coupling between this state and that state is the same as that state to this state.
Oh, okay.
So electron relaxing and exciting both probably the same.
Yeah.
Detailed
And
balance.
this kind of
Yes, Levi is correct.
Because I wasn't really paying attention very much. Yes. But we do
Detailed
it,
balance.
we do it by using a Boltzmann factor.
Ready? So first D, second B.
Detailed what?
Detailed balance.
Detailed balance?
So yes, transitions down in energy are enhanced, transitions up in energy are suppressed. Right? And you're doing it through Boltzmann distributions in surface coupling.
Yeah, so if the energy is down, then the exponential is large. If it's up, the exponential is virtually 0.
And in the limit of lower temperatures, transitions up become more and more
Yes.
suppressed, and the approximation that Yulun has presented becomes more and more valid. If the temperature goes to infinity, then transitions up and down become equivalent.
And the electron structure goes to
Yes. Firm distribution has very continuous, no step. Everything is occupied. Okay. How do you do it in your approach? If you're on the spot, there's a camera.
Okay, I have an answer.
So the transitions are multiplied by both, in your approach they are multiplied by Bose-Einstein distribution. So based on thermal occupations in each of the Forde modes. The resonance transitions up and down are multiplied by a certain factor. And there is the same physics of transitions down in energy are enhanced, transitions up in energy are suppressed. So what is shown on the board is an approximation that just saves some numerical efforts, but it works quick and efficient.
That's here, what matters is setup of time. So we first create a T grid, and it is from 1 to time step. So usually we use 600 as a time step. So T grid as matrix, it goes from 1, 2, 3 until 600. And for each value of T grid, there is a time associated with it. And this time, we use this expression. So basically, it's just like the size of this time increase exponentially. So for example, at the initial value of the T grid, the time is like from the second, but at the end of the T grid, it's like 50 seconds.
Let's discuss for a bit. So what would happen to propagation of differential equations with Runge-Kutta method as you do in surface coping if you escalate time step in this way? So when you do step 3 in your surface coping, your time step is smaller than femtosecond. It's like attosecond or 10 attoseconds. And the time step is used because electronic occupations are propagated by solving differential equations forward in time. Right? While numerically solving ordinary differential equations, precision of answer does depend on the step size. If you decrease step size, precision increases. If you increase step size, precision decreases. What if you exponentially increase step size as you go forward and forward? What happen to your precision? Huh? Yeah, it will blow up. Results will become unreliable very quick. Huh?
We have the rectangle rules for integration of differentials in discrete function.
Because you are integrating differential equations. Because you are integrating at each time step. But you should get intrigued by this approximation, because it will not work for numerical solution of differential equations, right? So on intuitive glance, this escalated time step will ruin any numerical solution. On other way, if one can do it, it will mount wings behind your shoulders and allow to describe times to nanoseconds or microseconds, right? How long can you simulate with surface coping? What is the longest trajectory you can do in a reasonable time?
I is around like about 4.4 picosecond.
Okay, so
that's my
5
trajectory.
picoseconds.
5 picoseconds.
Now watch what will happen. Yeah.
So
Oh.
I guess I have a question too. Is this the time step on the figure that's on the next slide? Is that why like there's no actual meaning behind that time step? Okay. That makes so much more sense now.
So I guess one of the most important output is this figure. So the next few slides explain how we calculate this figure. So I guess we start with PDE. So this is a matrix. It's orbital times time steps. So the initial value of PDE is set up in such a way that at the initial time, the initial condition is 1, and all other elements are 0. So and then next we diagonalize it the electron part of the triple arm file. So there is a correspondence with this equation. So this is Lewis Wheeler and Redfield operator acting on eigenvectors of density matrix. So you can get the eigenfrequency and the eigenvectors.
Let's wait if there are questions. So Levi and Jabet are not going into active discussion. You may object for initial condition of only one orbital excited. Okay, if you don't care, I'm fine. And another here is the resolution of the intrigue, like that was proposed by previous slide. How can we escalate the time step? So if our ordinary differential equation has constant coefficients, instead of propagating by infinitesimal time step, again and again, one can diagonalize once and have solution. It's like between analytical and numerical. It is numerical, but it is not time propagation. It's just by finding eigenvalues and then expanding solution as a superposition of eigenvectors with time factors depending on eigenvalues.
Don't you do several different orbital initial conditions? You just,
One can do it, but
you just look
the
at
life is busy even without it.
Just take the most optimal.
like it's not that you don't need. It's not that you are forced to. It's that you don't need to, and you have reasons to look at specific transitions.
And other questions about the last line? Is everyone happy about this semantics?
The one that's circled in red.
Huh? Yes.
Can you explain what the EIG command is?
This is a function of MATLAB. So what they do is just by typing this command, we got two kinds of data. The first one is the eigenvector, which is U. The other one is the eigenvalue, which is D.
So finding eigenvectors and eigenvectors, and they are directed into two matrices. So the first U will be a set of eigenvectors composed into a matrix, and second D is eigenvalues where diagonal elements will have eigenvalues and all the rest will be zeros.
All right.
The reason this code is in MATLAB rather than in Forde, although there is a goal to rewrite it in Forde and it would be so much quicker to do this, that commands like this take substantially larger number of lines and are harder to debug.
Next, we calculate some expansion coefficient. So this is our initial condition. This is the eigenvector. So the meaning of this is a degree of contribution of each eigenvector to the initial condition.
Everyone is happy? So this one is solving algebraic matrix equation. Like if matrix A times unknown vector X equals vector C, then X will be equal matrix A backslash in the matrix C. So it's decomposition of the initial condition, which can be anything we request as users, on to eigenvectors, which will be specific, which are specific and depend on this matrix derived from nonadiabatic couplings. Oh, Kevin, please.
Okay, so I just want to make sure I understand what we do. So the whole purpose of this talk is to like learn how to create all the MATLAB input files from the data we got in VASP.
You can say so, and in a little from different angle, which steps I needed to make MATLAB code to generate figures like the one shown in the upper right.
Okay, so then in VASP we extract the files for master EQ and then band out, and then we use MATLAB to extract data from those input files and then put them into variables.
And then apply specific methodology to predict how electrons and holes will change in time, which orbitals they will occupy if we perturb system by light.
Okay.
Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So as now we can populate the PPE file. So from previous slides, we can get the eigenvector, we can get eigenfrequency, and we already set up the time. So this is just the coefficient C. So this is the projection of the initial condition onto eigenvectors. So we can use this equation. This index just tells us to run over all eigenvectors. So we can use this equation to populate the PPE file. So here are some details.
Let's give a second.
What is AB? What is the equation?
Huh?
What is the superscript AB?
Initial conditions. It doesn't need to be. Can I answer this? So it deals with the question raised by Levi. Are we mandated to have single orbital occupation as initial condition? No, we are not. It's just one can answer a lot of, get a lot of insights about system by this simple arrangement. And this code, without any changes, can be used to, like one can use excitonic initial conditions or superpositional conditions when several alpha pairs are in superposition. But traditionally, just as a simplest thing, we use single orbital excitation. And this notation here tries to make things specific. So rho with superscript AB means it is initial condition of density in matrix, which has been created by promoting electron from occupied orbital A to unoccupied orbital B. And IJ runs for almost.
So with this, we can finally get this kind of here. So as we can see, the initial condition is the orbital occupation is 1 initial time, and as time goes by, the initial condition loses occupation, but other states just get some fractional occupation. And finally, for example, at 600 time state, the final state will move on as occupation 1. All other orbitals have occupation 0. I just stand for some numerical evaluation. This is also very important.
Yeah, things work without this 3 lines. They're just in case of numerical errors accumulate and lead us away from normalized occupations. This will bring back to restore normalization.
So finally, the data stored in PDE is at each time step the fractional occupation of each object. So here is a distribution of charge as a function of time and energy. So this is our PDE, and this is a distribution function centered at the orbital energy. So for this equation, we just minus quick relative value.
Either no questions or no one cares.
Here are just some parameters we use to generate this figure. But I guess we should pay attention to this one right here. So this is the expectation values. This corresponds to the solid and gas number. So there is an equation we use to generate the expectation values. It's of the occupation, of the energy at each time step, at a specific time step. And finally, we just sum it up. Here is just some, use single exponential thinking to get the weight. This is a final output. This is a grid for electrons.
Okay, thank you. So, are there more questions? Especially, oh, please.
So, how can you assume that it's a single exponential fitting for the occupied orbitals? Because you have an obvious intermediate state. So
it's like a double exponential line.
yeah.
So I guess everyone has a paper. We compare the single exponential and some double exponential. I guess the difference is 30%.
Well, basically, you just do more work. That's just what the code spits out at you. But
Yes.
you obviously see it's not single exponential
But
decay.
it's not even bi-exponential.
Right, you would have to do some sort of.
Is it stepwise single exponential? Seems like that.
So you have to do a kinetic model.
But it's
Oh, okay.
stepwise. It's like, is all population is relaxed to the intermediate one and then is relaxing directly to the lowest.
I guess I beg to differ that it can be fit to a double exponential.
It's like A to B, finished everything, and then B to C. So it's like a step which is going there.
Yes.
I'm not sure. I'm just assuming
Okay.
that my answer.
I'm just going to not argue.
One thing you do is just break it into two trajectories so that it decays to the first bubble, assuming it fully populates that one.
Yeah, so
but
we
that
have full
is
level.
a highly
Then
crude
no.
approximation. And it's very easy to do a kinetic model that would be nearly the same amount of work.
That's
Well,
also kinetic model.
in some sense, this code is like 200 state kinetic model.
Say what?
Kinetic model.
No, this is also kinetic
not
model.
to
Their
find
kinetic is going stepwise.
Not
Okay.
here, but
Oh.
original data with occupations.
Yes.
So, the data that you are proposing to use through kinetic model are already there. One can return back to occupations of states versus time, and everything will be there.
The biggie, that data set. So like the
Yeah,
average.
but you can also just look at the transformation from the nonadiabatic coupling terms to your Redfield tensor, because isn't that in rates? Your big matrix that has, isn't that rates already? So you could just look at that without doing anything.
Exactly.
And say,
Exactly.
this is what it's going to
But for you as a human, do you like to look on 100 by 100 metrics and analyze it?
No.
It is better to have one number, maybe not very precise, but which gives you insight into behavior of a system. With understanding that additional data are available, but no one needs it. More questions? Okay, if no, let's thank you once again.